On my first day as a freshman in high school, I entered a brand new building. My family had moved from Danbury, Connecticut to Trumbull, Connecticut, which at the end of the 50s was just a little bit more than a cow pasture. And my father was the first dentist in Trumbull, Connecticut, and they had just built their first high school building. And I was part of the freshman class that would be the first freshman class to go through all 4 years in this new building. I'd only been in Trumbull for a year. I didn't know anybody who was going to be in this new class. I knew one or two. But it's a whole new experience, and I came and I was very intimidated. And I remember it so vividly, my desk and who sat in front of me, and the green was called, the blackboards were green, so I called it a green blackboard. And the teacher wanted everybody to give their name. So everybody gave their name. And then he came to me. I said, my name is Mark Golub. And you know how there are certain moments in your life that stay with you forever. This teacher was named Albert Huntley. I would have him again in the 11th grade, and he was an enormous influence on me. And he was an irreverent kind of teacher. He got into trouble because he was irreverent. I loved him. He said to me, Golub, are you any relationship to Dr. Leo Golub? I said, yes, he's my father. The world changed at that moment because I was Leo Golub's son. And he said to the class, this is Leo Golub's son. And later, the class moved from one room across the hall to the other room for math and science. And as we're moving, Albert Huntley, Mr. Huntley, was in the doorway, and I don't remember the other teacher's name. I can see him perfectly, but I don't remember his name. He's in the doorway across the hall. He says, this is Leo Golub's son. So my father and mother had come to Trumbull, and they were enormously committed to education. It was a major value in our home. And in terms of how they treated my brother and me, when it came to education, we had no say. Whatever they said we needed to study, or do extra, we did. That was their decision. We were told, there are certain things over life you have no control over, education and medicine. You'll do what we're, everything else you can talk to us about, but not education and not medicine. And my father was committed to raising the salaries of teachers, to get better teachers in Trumbull system as a whole. And he created something called the Council for Better Schools. And the teachers felt they had an ally in my father because he was arguing that they should get more money. And it came back to me. By the way, it was true for my entire 4 years at Trumbull High. I was Dr. Golub's son, the guy who was fighting for the teachers and their salary. And it affected me. Not only was it nice for me, but it affected how I viewed education and how I felt about teachers. And I felt about education as a priority in society. I learned it from my mother and my father. My parents were classic liberal Democrat idealists. And they railed against any form of discrimination. And they were also passionate about Judaism. And my parents, especially my father, was instrumental in creating the first synagogue in Trumbull, Connecticut. And there's a photograph. And my brother and I are in this photograph of their breaking ground for Temple B'nai Israel in Trumbull, Connecticut. And on the high holidays, the student rabbi from JTS would stay in our house. And I grew up with this sense that education was important and Judaism was important. And an embrace of humanity as a whole was important. This was a gift from my mother and father. And I was also gifted by my grandparents. At Trumbull High, the question was, are you related to Dr. Golub, Leo Golub? I went to rabbinical school. The very first professor who sits across from me says to me, you related to Jacob Golub? Jacob Golub was my father's father, my grandfather. Jacob Golub had been a pioneer, a giant in early American Jewish education. And then going on to be the head of the Board of Education and one of the most important centers of Jewish education in America, in Chicago. And one of the things that gave me enormous pride was that in the Jewish Encyclopedia, there's a section about Jacob S. Golub. This isn't about me. You understand? I did nothing to earn anything that my father did or my grandfather did. I was an inheritor. It was a legacy that my father and grandfather gave me, and I have legacies from my grandfather on my mother's side, who was an Orthodox rabbi from the esteemed Slobodki Yeshiva in Lithuania, who came to America. And what I'm relating, I believe there are, maybe every single one of you could come here and you have your own story. You have your story about a parent or a grandparent or a great-grandparent or an uncle that in some way touched you, that helped form you. I use this only to illustrate, not because my father and grandfathers were unique, they were just people. And all of us in this room are the product of those who came before and gave us life and helped shape our values. But my mother's father, my grandfather on my mother's side, came to Norwalk, Connecticut to be the Orthodox rabbi. And he met the president of the Orthodox Orthodox synagogue, who told him we'd like to take him on a walk. And on the walk, he told him all the things that my grandfather would have to do as a rabbi in Norwalk. And at the end of the walk, my grandfather said to him, "You don't know how to talk to a rabbi. I'm out of here. I will kosher," he was also a shochet, "I will kosher a week's worth of chickens for you, and I'm gone." And he was never a rabbi again. He became a businessman in the Midwest, which is a story after being a peddler. This is a story, I'm sure many of you have a very similar story about a grandparent who came at the early part of the 20th century and ultimately got into the business world. Maybe you've been a peddler. don't remember. What was it? What was it? No, say it to me.
Rags, clothes,
Yeah. Rags, clothes, bottles. Do you know? Rags, clothes, bottle. Yes. What was the movie? What is it? No. I never sang for my father. Lies my father told me. Great opening scene. And Sarit and I used to sing it all the time. We sang it higher. Rags, clothes, bottles. Rags, clothes, bottle. It's because so many of our grandparents were peddlers when they first came. I'm sure many of you have wonderful, loving stories that describe where you came from. That grandfather, ultimately, he was a peddler. He found something shiny in a barn, and it turned out it was a metal, and it turned out it was steel, and it turned out he got a lot of money for the steel, and he stopped looking for clothes, rags, bottles, and went for steel, steel, steel. And he built a steel company, and he became wealthy, and good for him. And the legend, every family has its legend. You have your family legends, we have our family legends. A legend means it might be true. The legend is that my grandfather's word was his bond, and that he was able to purchase, I don't know the number because again it's a different era, how many dollars worth of steel with a handshake and a word, because everybody knew they could trust my grandfather. Now, again, to what extent that's literally, it doesn't matter. I, as a grandson, hear that story. And that story is a way of saying to me, honesty was important to your family, to your grandfather. The people who shaped you believed in the Jewish tradition which says, when we go to heaven, it's a midrash, when we stand at the throne of heaven, we're not asked, by the way, this is not a Reformed Jewish midrash. This is not a modern midrash. This is a midrash out of the Talmudic period. When a Jew stands before the throne of heaven on Judgment Day, he is not asked, she is not asked, did you observe the Shabbat? Did you keep all of the ritual mitzvot? The person is asked, the Jew is asked, were you honest and righteous in all your business dealings with your fellow man? For all of the modern emphasis, and it's not like I'm in any way saying that the ritual mitzvot are not important. They are, but in a different category of importance. In the Jewish tradition, what's important is how do you treat other people? Are you honest with them? And I'm learning as a child that my grandfather stands for a certain kind of honesty and integrity. And I'm learning from my parents about education and the importance of Judaism and the importance of being open to everyone. And this year the symbol is, what does it mean to experience a good year? A good year. And more, what's it mean to give other people goodness in the year that's to come? What does it mean? And what it means, we talked about it on Rosh Hashanah. There's Mazal Tov, there's Yom Tov, and then there's Shem Tov. And as important as it is to have Mazel, and to accomplish and be told Mazal Tov, congratulations, as wonderful it is to celebrate life in as many Yom Tovim as is possible, the most important thing of all is to have and be a Shem Tov, to have a good name, to be respected, one's integrity. and one's goodness inside. And so the founder of Hasidism is called the Baal Shem Tov. And everyone is hopefully has for him or herself a Baal Shem Tov, a master of the good name. It reflects how people view them, their reputation, and what they stand for, and what they move others to do and be. The most important Tov of all is Shem Tov. And we learn Shem Tov first from our family. It's not just parents. It's not just grandparents. Some of you may have been influenced by an uncle or an aunt or a cousin or a brother or a sister. And by the way, the Jewish tradition's insight is one can even be influenced by one's children. Again, we're not talking about a 4-year-old or a 5-year-old or a 10-year-old or a 12-year-old. Although as a person becomes bar mitzvah, their character begins to be present. But so many of us learn from our adult children as well. It's a family dynamic. It's a family experience. This sense of becoming more and becoming more sensitive. And the question that's asked on Yom Kippur is, what kind of good person do you want to be? Of all the good, what about being a good, just a good person, a lovely person who feels the pain of others and tries to address it, who understands the power of loneliness and does everything one possibly can to end the loneliness of others. We talked about it again on Rosh Hashanah. What does it mean to give others a good year? It means to be with them, companionship, and it means appreciation. Always telling the other person how wonderful they are, how good they are, and how grateful we are for them and what they do, not only for us, but for all of us. It starts with family. And then it goes to the people we are friends with. The Jewish tradition says the most powerful thing in the world is the community you're part of. The community we are part of shapes much of what we value in life. Pirkei Avot says, step up and pick a friend. A friend should always be one that one aspires to be like. And it is so, again, the Jewish genius, which is, on the face of it, there's an irony to it. Most Jewish holidays are celebrated at home, in family. That's what happens on Passover. That's what happens on Sukkot. That's what happens on Hanukkah. Purim, you come to listen. But Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, which is the most personal of all holidays, is celebrated in community, in a room like this, surrounded by lovely people, and that we rub up against them, and we become lovelier ourselves. This room creates loveliness all the time. And then there's the obligation. The obligation is for every one of us to be an example and a model for the next generation. The idea of Shem Tov links generations. Tonight we are to think about all of the ways in which those who are no longer with us influenced us for good, their loveliness. And by the way, almost nobody's parent or grandparent was a perfect person. It's not about that. And that's why this phrase is, remember for good. The good that was in those who are no longer with us, but who helped shape us. And we carry them with us. They're here tonight. All of us together who are here tonight share in this moment. And we are also making a statement for all the generations yet to come. And our children have the right to be who and what they are. They can adopt their own styles. It is so important to keep remembering Ezekiel Nizim's statement or aphorism. A poet, a Jewish poet out of India. Protect my children from my secret wish to make them over in my illusions and realities. Let them move to the music they love, dissonant though it may be to me. Our children have the right to move to their own music. At the same time, we hope that while their style changes, we hope that what they find precious in life is what we shared, and that in subtle but profound ways, they are influenced by what matters to us, not necessarily by what we say, but by what we do and who we are, and what's important to us, we model all the time. And it is our hope that the next generations will one day stand with us, whether we're here any longer or not, and sing Kol Nidre and reaffirm what it is to be a lovely, compassionate human being. The styles, they will work out, just as we did. But the overall commitment is one that binds 3 generations at all times. And that becomes the threefold chant tonight. As we chant Kol Nidre tonight, first, quietly, in reverent respect, in honor and love for all those who are no longer with us, but who helped shape who we are. They're with us tonight. Then we sing the chant a little stronger because it links everybody in this room together. Understanding that in companionship and in appreciation, together we will try to build a good year for everyone. And then the third chant. That's for all the generations yet to come to hear. It is our promise that our value system and our understanding of what it means to be a good person is one that will be given to them for their generation and the generations that come after. The 3 chants of the Kol Nidre tonight, may they uplift us in all 3 chants. And we all say,
We would be pleased to send a complimentary DVD of this program to anyone who wishes to support JBS, the Jewish Broadcasting Service, with a tax-deductible gift of $36, double chai or more, to the nonprofit organization Jewish Education in Media. Simply visit the JBS homepage and click on the Donate button to make a donation by PayPal or your credit card. And please indicate the program for which you would like a DVD. Or you can send your tax-deductible check made out to Jem, Post Office Box 180, Riverdale Station, Bronx, New York 10471. And again, please remember to indicate which program you would like to receive with our compliments. And we thank you for your kind support.